No one looked at the janitor. He walked through the shining alien station. Pushing his mop slowly, his uniform was faded, his boots worn out, and his back slightly bent. To the aliens, he was just a human doing a dirty job. He didn't speak, he didn't smile, he didn't complain. He was like a machine that cleaned quietly in the background. To them, he was invisible. His name was Eli. He worked on level 12 of the Zarnok trade station, a place full of powerful alien leaders, scientists, and commanders. They walked past him every day, discussing secrets and missions in their own languages. They never noticed the janitor cleaning near the walls or in the corners. They never thought he could understand anything they said, because he was just a human, and humans were not respected here. But Eli listened. He remembered every word, every sound, every code. He understood 5 alien languages he didn't learn. Them in school, he had picked them up quietly over the years. Listening and watching while cleaning floors, he never spoke them, not even once. Because the moment they knew, his life would change. One morning, Eli entered conference room 7. It was empty, but the floor was dirty. He started mopping quietly as the doors slid open behind him. 6 alien diplomats entered the room. They didn't stop talking as they passed him. Why would they? He was just a janitor. After all, the room was full of noise now. Loud alien voices echoed as they argued over territory and trade routes. They spoke in Grali, a complex alien language full of sharp tones and hidden meanings. Eli's eyes didn't move from the floor, but his ears caught every word. They were planning something dangerous. Suddenly, one of the diplomats slammed his hand on the table. A tall creature named Veltir shouted in Grali, "This human trash spilled water here. Disgusting." Then he added, "Clean faster. Worm." The other aliens laughed. Eli stopped, looked up slowly, and replied in perfect Grali, "It is not water. It is from the coolant pipe above your head." The room fell silent. The aliens stared at him, their faces frozen in shock. Veltar blinked, then took a step back. "You speak Grali," he whispered. Eli stood tall now, not slouching, not hiding. "I understand many things," he said calmly in their language. The aliens looked at each other, unsure if this was a joke or a threat. "Who are you?" Veltar asked, his voice now less proud. "I'm just a janitor," Eli replied, still in Grali. "And your coolant pipe is still leaking." Without another word, Eli walked to the corner, pulled out a small tool from his belt. He tapped the ceiling pipe, and sure enough, a few drops fell. Then he twisted a valve and stopped the leak in 3 seconds. The aliens were still watching him, stunned. One of them whispered, "He speaks like a scholar." Another said, "He fixed the pipe without a scanner." Veltar stepped forward and said, "No human knows our sacred language. How did you learn it?" Eli gave a small smile by listening, while being ignored. The door opened suddenly. A security guard entered and looked at the quiet room. "Is everything all right?" the guard asked in the common tongue. Veltar nodded slowly. "Yes, we were just." Surprised, the guard looked at Eli, confused, then left. The moment passed. But something had changed in the room. Eli picked up his mop and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back and said in Grali, "You should check the corridor pipes too. They're old." Then he left. The aliens didn't move for a long moment. They had seen a human janitor, but he was not what he seemed. He knew their language, their tools, their systems. He had been watching them, listening, walking beside their secrets for years. Now, the question burned in their minds, who really was this man? After that day in the conference room, Eli knew the silence was over. He had spoken their language, and now he could not go back to being invisible. But he also knew something else. His time was running short. The aliens would not just forget what happened. They would start watching him, questioning him. But Eli still had a job to finish. He pushed his cleaning cart down the long metal corridor. Above him, pipes hummed softly and ventilation ducts rattled with warm air. The walls glowed faint blue, the usual calm of the Zarnok trade station, but beneath that calm, danger whispered. He had overheard something dark, something big, for months. He had been collecting tiny pieces of conversation. While mopping floors or fixing small leaks, he had memorized alien words. Some came from guards, others from diplomats, and some from cloaked visitors. One name kept coming back: Project Dustfall. It was never said in public, only in private moments, behind closed doors, and always in worried tones. Eli had a habit. Every time he finished cleaning an important hallway, he would open a maintenance hatch and slip inside the narrow tunnels full of cables and dust. He could crawl and listen. It was risky, but it was the only place where no one watched him. The air ducts ran behind the command rooms and council chambers, and the walls were thin. That day, Eli removed the vent cover and slid inside. He moved like a shadow, slow and quiet, after 10 meters. He stopped near a vent behind a security briefing room. Inside, 2 officers were speaking in Valari, a fast and sharp alien dialect. But Eli understood every word. "The human world will never see it coming," said the first voice. "Project Dustfall is ready." The second one replied, "The weapon is already in orbit." Eli's heart beat faster. They were planning an attack, and Earth was the target. He had to warn someone, but who? No one trusted a janitor, and now he was being watched. As the conversation ended, Eli crawled back out and closed the vent. He walked away like nothing had happened. But inside, his mind raced with plans. Back in his storage room, hidden behind old tools and empty crates, he had a secret compartment. He pulled out a small box, dusty and silent. Inside was a homemade communicator, built from discarded alien tech. It wasn't strong enough to send a message to Earth, but it could reach the lower docks. There, someone owed him a favor. His name was Tarnok, a small alien engineer who once got caught in a gas leak. Eli had pulled him out, given him oxygen, and said nothing. Tarnok had never forgotten. Now Eli needed him, late at night, when the station lights dimmed and patrols slowed. Eli made his move. He walked through the service tunnels, carrying a mop and a bag of tools. To anyone watching, he was just fixing a leak. But inside the bag was the communicator, hidden in parts, at Dock 17, near the engine cooling vents. Tarnok was waiting. He was short, with yellow skin and large round eyes. "You shouldn't be here," Tarnok whispered. "They're watching you." "I know," Eli replied, "but I need your help." They sat in the shadows, and Eli told him everything. The overheard words, the name Project Dustfall, the secret weapon. Tarnok's eyes widened. "This is massive," he said. "They will erase you if they find out you know this." "I don't care," Eli said, "but Earth must be warned." Tarnok nodded slowly. "I can boost your signal, but only for 5 seconds, no more. That's enough," Eli replied. "One message, one chance." They worked quickly, connecting wires, adjusting frequencies, and powering up the device. Eli typed the message in a coded form, one only a few on Earth would understand. He hit send. A soft beep confirmed it had gone out. Then the device sparked and died, melted from the power burst. They both stared at the smoke in silence. "It's done," Tarnok said. "Now run." Eli didn't move. "No," he whispered. "Now we prepare." But as he turned to leave, a voice echoed from the shadows. "So the janitor has teeth." Eli froze. A tall figure stepped out. Wearing dark armor and a crimson sash, it was Commander Harvick Head. Of station security, he had a pulse rifle in his hand and a cold smile on his face. "I've been watching you, human," he said. "And now I know why. Tarnock tried to speak, but Harvick raised the rifle. One word, and I vaporize you both. Eli raised his hand slowly. You don't want to do this, he said in perfect alien tongue. Harvick's smile faded. You really do speak like one of us. Eli nodded. Yes, and I know all your secrets. The security office was cold and silent. Eli sat in a metal chair, hands cuffed behind him. A single light above flickered softly. Commander Harvick paced back and forth like a predator. His boots echoed across the room. Tarnock was nowhere in sight. They had taken him away first. Eli didn't know if the alien engineer was alive or dead. Harvick stopped and leaned close. You think you're clever, human, he said. But no one disrespects this station and walks away. Eli didn't answer. He stared forward, calm and still. Harvick slammed a file on the table. These are the logs, Janitor, he growled. You've been in places you shouldn't be. Vents, tunnels, power corridors. He pointed to the pages. You crawled behind council rooms like a rat. Eli finally spoke. If I'm just a janitor, why are you afraid? Harvick's eyes narrowed. We're not afraid. We're angry. But the tremble in his voice said otherwise. That night, they locked Eli in a storage room. Not a prison cell, no cameras, no guards outside. It looked like a mistake, but Eli knew better. They were testing him, waiting to see what he would do. Eli waited in silence for an hour. Then he kicked a panel under the wall. Dust flew out, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a toolkit, not for cleaning, but for decoding, scanning, building. Years ago, he had started collecting broken tech, a smashed alien communicator, a piece of a navigation chip, an old translator ring. He called it trash. The aliens called it useless, but to Eli, it was gold. Every piece held code. Language, energy, and secrets. He had fixed them all, in secret, over time. He took out a small flat device with blinking lights. It looked like a cleaner's datapad, but Eli had reprogrammed it. He opened a file labeled sweep logs, but it wasn't about floors. It was alien command codes, written in their own language. He had copied them over weeks, even months. Every time he saw a commander enter his code, he memorized it. Then he stored it here. Under cleaning schedules, he tapped a few buttons. One screen opened with a blinking red file. Dustfall confirmed. Eli stared at it for a long second. Then he smiled. He had proof now. Suddenly, the door beeped. Someone was unlocking it from the outside. Eli grabbed the device, wrapped it in a cloth, and stuffed it inside the mop bucket. The door opened, and 2 guards entered. You're coming with us, one said. They took him to a tall, black room with a glass floor. Beneath the glass, Eli saw strange metal parts floating in gravity fields. Above him, holograms of planets turned slowly. A large alien woman sat at the far end of the room, high speaker Jaria. One of the top council members. She raised a hand, and the guards stepped back. Human, she said calmly. Your actions have made noise. Eli looked around. Noise means people were sleeping before, he said. Jaria tilted her head. You know ancient Grali, she said. That language is only taught to royal houses. I learned it while scrubbing floors, he replied. The room fell quiet for a moment. Jaria stood up and walked to him slowly. You're not just a janitor, she said. Eli gave her a tired smile. I never said I was. She leaned in closer. What do you want? Eli pulled the wrapped datapad from the mop bucket and handed it to her. I want peace, he said. But this station is hiding a war. Jaria opened the file and scanned the data. Her eyes widened for just a second, just enough for Eli to notice. Where did you get this? She whispered. I listened while no one cared I existed, he replied. I remembered everything you forgot." She turned to the guards. "Leave us," she said sharply. When the room was empty, she sat down again. "Project Dustfall is above both of us," she said. "You don't understand what's at stake. I understand Earth will burn." "If no one stops it," Eli said. Jeria's hands clenched. "There are factions. Human," she whispered. "Powerful ones. I've tried to slow them, but they grow." "Then help me stop them," Eli said. Jeria looked at him for a long moment. "Why should I trust a janitor?" Eli looked her in the eye because I had every chance to run. "But I stayed," he said, "because you ignored me, and I still chose to save your people." She turned away, silent. Then she walked to a console and pressed a code. A secret file opened on the wall, a blueprint, a massive structure in orbit, aimed at Earth dustfall. "I'll get you access to the shipyard," she said slowly. "You'll need help, and you'll need to move fast." Eli nodded. "I have a friend," he said, "and a plan." Eli moved through the lower tunnels of the Zarnok trade station. Not with a mop this time, but with purpose. The hallways were darker here, older, ignored by most. Pipes hissed, and the walls trembled slightly from passing energy bursts. This part of the station was forgotten, like he had once been, and that made it the perfect place for a meeting. Jeria had kept her word. She gave him a passcode and a time midnight cycle. No guards, no eyes. She said she would send someone who could help. Someone who believed in peace, but Eli had been lied to before. So he brought his tools. And his silence. He entered a maintenance room, marked Storage 9A. Dust floated in the air. The light above flickered weakly. Inside, sitting on a crate, was someone he hadn't seen in days. Tarnok, the small engineer, stood up quickly. "You're alive," Tarnok said, eyes wide. "I thought they killed you." Eli gave a half smile. "Not yet," he said, "but it's close." Tarnok stepped forward and showed him a tiny cube in his palm. "This," he said, "is a signal breaker. It will stop their tracking for a few minutes." Eli took it, nodding. "You always surprise me," he said. "I learn from you." Tarnok replied. A quiet knock echoed from the metal door. One knock, then two fast ones. The signal. Eli opened the door slowly, hand near his belt in case of danger. Standing outside was a tall, alien woman, cloaked in gray and wearing a mark on her shoulder, Sharia seal. "I'm Lyra," she said. Softly, "Jeria sent me." Eli stepped aside and let her in. Her eyes scanned the room quickly, measuring every corner, every shadow. "You really hide in the dirtiest parts of the station," she said. Eli shrugged. "Dirt doesn't lie." He replied. They sat on crates, and Lyra pulled out a small projection disc. It lit up with the image of a large, structureless ship, sleek and black, surrounded by weapons. "This is Dustfall," she said. "It's not just a ship, it's a purifier." Eli frowned. "What does that mean?" "It releases targeted energy that can erase all organic life on a planet," she said, "but leave structures untouched." Eli's stomach turned. "A weapon like that? It's not for defense." Lyra nodded slowly. "No, it's for domination." Tarnok leaned forward. "How close are they to launching it?" "2 cycles, Lyra said. "Up there." "But they're waiting for a signal from the council." Eli looked at the blueprints again. "Then we have 2 options," he said. "Stop the signal or stop the ship." Silence followed. Lyra spoke first. "There's a control core under the station, only accessible through the engineer's sector." Tarnok nodded. "I know the place, but it's crawling with scanners now." Eli stood up. "Then we go quiet," he said. "No guns, no noise. We move like dust." They started planning. Drawing maps on the floor, using broken wires. Eli pointed to an old lift shaft. "We enter here, avoid the sensor gates, and cut power to the lower locks." Tarnok added a note. "I can disable the scanners." "But I need 3 minutes." Lyra nodded. "And I'll get you a fake ID chip to pass the first gate." For the first time in days, Eli felt like they had a chance. 3 people, alone against a station of thousands. A janitor, an engineer, and a rebel. No one would expect them. That was their power. As they finished the plan, a sudden knock hit the door. Loud, fast, not the signal. They all froze. Eli whispered. "Lights off." Tarnock clicked the breaker, and the room dropped into darkness. Outside, heavy footsteps moved. A voice spoke in alien tongue. "We know you're in there. Open the door now." Lyra drew a small blade from her boot. Tarnock held a short metal rod. Eli stayed calm. "Cover your ears," he whispered. He reached into his tool belt and pulled out a sonic burst sphere. With a quick click, he tossed it near the vent. Boom! A flash of light and sound exploded, shaking the floor and blasting. Open the side vent. Smoke filled the room as they all dived in, crawling fast through the narrow tunnel behind them. The door exploded open and voices screamed. They didn't stop. They crawled deeper and deeper into the old tunnel, coughing and sweating. When they finally emerged into an abandoned storage hallway, they collapsed in silence. Tarnock gasped. "That was close." Eli nodded. "It won't be the last time." Lyra looked back at the vent. "They're scared now," she said. "Good." Eli replied, standing up slowly. "Let them be scared, because now they know dust can fight back." The next morning, the Zarnok trade station buzzed with rumors. An explosion in the lower tunnels, missing officers, restricted sectors sealed off. But no one talked about the janitor. No one knew he was gone. And that was exactly how Eli wanted it. He stood in an empty hallway now, wearing a fresh uniform, not his janitor suit, but an old engineer's coverall. Gray and plain. The fake ID chip from Lyra pulsed quietly in his chest pocket. Tarnock walked beside him, carrying a broken scanner to look busy. They looked like any other repair crew, just another pair of workers in a sea of noise. Lyra waited near the elevator shaft, leaning against a wall. She handed Eli a datapad as they approached. "This will give you 10 seconds of control inside the lift," she whispered. "Use it wisely." Eli nodded. As the elevator doors opened, he stepped in first. He turned around just as the doors closed and pressed a hidden code on the datapad. The lights flickered, then went dark for exactly 10 seconds. Just long enough for him to pull the panel from the wall and drop into the maintenance shaft below. The drop wasn't far, but it was rough. He landed hard, rolled, and stood up fast. This was the hidden level, the restricted zone beneath the power core. No one came here unless they had high clearance. And yet, here he was. Eli moved fast, passing warning signs and humming generators. He reached a small control panel and placed a decoding disc on it. The lights flashed red, then yellow, then green. The door opened, revealing the heart of the control network. Inside were walls lined with glowing consoles. Screens blinked with alien text, command codes, and star maps. In the center of the room stood a tall black cube, humming softly. The core node. Eli walked toward it, his eyes scanning the code lines. He had memorized hundreds of patterns over the years. Security lines, command strings, input flaws. He pulled out his custom datapad and began typing line by line. The system resisted him. It pushed back with security barriers and lockouts. But Eli wasn't just guessing. He knew this language like it was part of him. He bypassed 3 layers in under a minute, then paused. There was Project Dustfall activation key. He tapped the screen. Access requires clearance level Omega. He smiled softly. Time to stop hiding. Eli took a small disk from his pocket. It was round, black, with an old Earth logo scratched on the side. He pressed it against the console. A soft click. A new screen opened. "Welcome, Commander Elian Grathurth's Linguistic Warfare Division. The core accepted the key. The lies peeled away. The janitor was gone. The real man stood there now, an old war strategist. Once trained to infiltrate through silence, he had not cleaned floors for survival. He had been collecting knowledge, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, a voice spoke from behind. I knew it. Eli turned fast, hand reaching for his belt. But it was Lyra, standing in the doorway with a calm expression. You're not who you said you were, she whispered. Eli didn't deny it. I was once a commander. Yes, he said. But I gave it up long ago. Why? She asked. Eli stepped away from the console. Because the war broke something in me. He said, I saw too many die for pride, and I wanted peace. But when I came here, saw the same fire growing again. Lyra looked down, then back. At him, you had every chance to leave, she said, but you stayed. Even as a janitor, Eli nodded. I stayed to listen because sometimes it's all it takes to stop a war. She stepped closer. What now? He handed her the datapad. I've locked the activation codes, he said. They can't launch Dustfall without this. Lyra held the pad carefully. If they find out, they'll destroy the whole station. Then we give them something else to look at, Eli said. A distraction. Tarnik's voice came through a small communicator on Lyra's wrist. Security is moving. They're scanning level 6 right now. They think we're still there, Eli said. Good. He walked to the far console and began uploading a signal to a nearby beacon. It showed false readings and engine failure. Fire alerts, pressure leaks. The station would go into panic mode. Just as planned, Lyra stared at him. You're still a strategist. Eli smiled, only when I have to be, as the alarms began to ring. And lights flashed red across the floor. Eli looked back at the core. It pulsed once, then dimmed. Dustfall was frozen, for now. He turned to Lyra. Let's go, he said, and together. They vanished into the smoke. Asterisk, the station burned in alarms and flashing lights. Red warnings blinked on every corridor wall. Crew members shouted, guards ran, systems froze. Smoke filled the upper chambers, even though there was no fire. It was all part of Eli's plan. Create chaos and disappear within it. Lyra and Eli moved quickly through the narrow service tunnels. Tarnak guided them from a hidden console on the lower level. I've opened a path toward Hangar Bay 9. His voice crackled. But you have 10 minutes. No more understood. Eli replied. Lyra handed him a breathing mask. Just in case, she said. They passed through a broken corridor, sparks flying from the ceiling. Alien workers scrambled past them, unaware of who they were. To them, Eli was still just another worker in a borrowed uniform. But he knew that wouldn't last long. As they turned a corner, a group of armed guards appeared. They didn't look like station security. They wore black armor with red stripes on their shoulders. Elite enforcers from the inner council. Eli grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her into a supply room. He tapped his wrist device. Tarnak, route change. They're here. I see them, Tarnak answered. You'll have to go through the ventilation shaft above you. Eli climbed up fast. Pushing open the grate, he pulled Lyra up behind him as footsteps echoed outside. Inside the vents, the heat was worse. The station's systems were overloading. From the false fire signals, sweat dripped down Eli's face. God. He didn't stop. He crawled forward, checking each corner carefully. Lyra whispered behind him. They're not acting like guards. They're searching for us. I know. Eli said softly. Someone gave them our location. Lyra paused. You think it's Jeria? Eli didn't answer right away. He didn't want to believe it. They dropped down into a maintenance hallway just 2 floors above the hangar. Tarnak's voice came again. You're almost there, but something's wrong. What is it? Eli asked. The ship you were supposed to use is gone, Tarnak said. Another group took it 20 minutes ago. Eli clenched his jaw. Who? I. I'm checking logs. Wait, Tarnock stopped. A silence. Then, it was Jarius. Signature. Lyra froze. She sold us out. Eli felt something twist inside his chest. The one person he thought he could trust. She had given them the fake chip, the passcode, everything, and then she used them. We have to change the plan. Eli said quickly, Is there another ship? Dock 14 has an old patrol shuttle, Tarnock said, but it's not safe. Neither is staying here. Eli replied, We'll take it. As they reached the lower deck. A sudden explosion shook the floor. The lights burst above them, and flames roared from a cracked fuel line. Eli pulled Lyra to the ground just as fire swept across the hall. The heat was intense, burning the walls and melting the floor panels. From the smoke, voices shouted, Find them, alive if possible. Lyra groaned, her leg bleeding from shrapnel. Eli tore a strip of his sleeve and wrapped it around her wound. We're close, he said. She looked up at him, pain in her eyes. I'll slow you down. Eli shook his head. I didn't come this far to leave someone behind. He lifted her gently, one arm under her shoulder, together. They moved through the burning corridor. The shuttle dock came into view. One last hallway, then freedom. But as they stepped forward, a figure blocked the path. Commander Harvick. His black armor shone in the firelight, his rifle aimed steady. I warned them not to trust a janitor. He said coldly. Eli stepped forward slowly. You've already lost, he said. Harvick laughed. No. I'm just beginning. He raised his rifle, but Lyra, despite her pain, reached for her belt and threw a flash bomb. Light exploded. Harvick screamed. Eli charged forward, tackling him to the floor. They fought hard, fists slamming into armor, but Eli fought with desperation, not training. Harvick struck him across the face. You're nothing, he spat. Eli coughed. Blood in his mouth. No, he said. I'm the one who watched, who waited, who listened. He reached into his boot and pulled a sharp maintenance tool. With a quick strike, he hit Harvick's armor joint. The commander cried out, falling back. Lyra grabbed Eli's arm. Now she whispered. They ran into the shuttle bay. Alarms wailing behind them, the patrol ship sat like a rusted bird, half functional but alive. They climbed in. Eli took the pilot's seat. Lyra collapsed beside him. Tarnock's voice came once more. I'll open the doors for 10 seconds. No more. Eli nodded. Thank you, my friend. Just finish it, Tarnock said. The bay doors opened and the vacuum pulled. Eli hit the thrusters. The ship roared. Sparks flew from its wings, and they escaped into the black stars behind them. Zarnak Station burned not from bombs, but from truth, and the janitor was no longer in the room. The stars stretched endlessly around them. The patrol ship shook with every movement. Old engines straining to stay alive. Eli kept his hands tight on the controls. Guiding the vessel away from the chaos behind them, Lyra lay beside him, her leg wrapped in a bandage, her eyes half closed. She was breathing, but weak. Eli didn't speak. He focused on the only thing that mattered, now escape. Zarnak Trade Station faded behind them, covered in flashing red lights. Parts of the outer decks had lost power. Flames danced in small bursts along the edges. The system-wide alert would go out soon. The council would say, terrorists attacked. The station, they would not mention the janitor. They would not speak of the weapon that had been hidden in plain sight. Eli opened a secure channel using the old Earth frequency. He tapped a coded message into the system. Project Dustfall neutralized transmission code. Grath 6, the reply came within seconds. Confirm standby for extraction. He leaned back in his chair for a moment, finally breathing slower. Lyra opened her eyes. Did we do it? She asked. Eli looked at her. We stopped it, he said. But that's not the end. She nodded slowly. They'll still come after us. Yes, Eli said quietly. They always do. The ship's console blinked an incoming call. Eli opened it, and Tarnuk's tired face appeared. I made it out, he said, his voice shaking. Barely. But I'm alive. Eli smiled for the first time in days. You did good, he said. You saved more lives than you'll ever know. Tarnuk looked down. They're blaming outsiders already. Humans, mostly. Eli's smile faded. Of course they are. He said, it's easier than facing the truth. He ended the call and looked out at the stars again. He remembered his first day on Zarnak Station. How he had taken the job no one wanted. How the aliens had laughed when he mopped floors and cleaned toilets. No one had known his name. No one had cared. He had watched their world through cracks and shadows. He had listened to words they thought were secret. He had seen their cruelty, their power, their arrogance, but also their fear. They feared change. They feared weakness. They feared truth. Lyra shifted in her seat. So who are you, really? She asked. Eli thought for a moment, once. I was Commander Eliane Grath of the Earth Linguistic Warfare Division, he said. But that was a long time ago. And now? She asked. He looked at her and smiled gently. Now I'm just Eli, a janitor. She laughed softly. Some janitor. He reached over and took her hand. I didn't win this alone, he said. You stayed when you could have run. I believed in you, she whispered. Then that makes two of us, he said, outside the ship. A light appeared in the distance, a human vessel, dark gray with earth markings on the side. It was a stealth ship, fast and silent. There. Extraction team, help had finally come. As they approached, a voice came through the speakers. This is Earth's vessel's silent echo. Preparing to dock, Eli responded. 2 passengers, 1 injured, 1 very tired. The pilot replied with a soft chuckle. Welcome home, Janitor. The docking process began. Smooth and quiet, inside the silent echo. Medics waited, ready to take Lyra. Eli helped her into a chair as they checked her wounds. She held on to his arm. Don't disappear again, she said. I won't, he promised. I've got more cleaning to do. Later, after Lyra was resting, Eli stood in a quiet observation room. He looked out at the stars, hands in his pockets, behind him. A woman entered, a high officer from Earth Command. You broke every rule, she said. I cleaned up a mess you didn't see, he replied. She nodded slowly. You may have started something big. Eli turned to her. Maybe, he said. But sometimes it takes a janitor to show the cracks in the walls. She looked at him carefully. Are you ready to come back? Eli thought for a moment. No, he said, but I'm ready to do what's right. She left him alone, and he turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, more secrets waited. More shadows hid dangerous truths, and he would find them. Not with weapons, but with quiet steps, open ears, and the heart of someone who never gave up, because he was the janitor, the invisible man. The one they all ignored till it was too late.